Hello and welcome to another special episode of Reboot India. And today we're taking stock of what's happening across Motan. We've got a very special company joining in, Honda Motorcycle and Scooter India, and who better than Mr. Yadvinder Singh Guleria joining in to talk about whether or not the industry is poised for a reboot after grappling with the second wave or not. Mr. Guleria, pleasure having you on the show today, sir.
Yeah, so far everything is in control, I would say, and we are fortunate enough that everything, whether it is our dealers or staff, they are all doing good.
You know, in equity markets, Mr. Guleria, we like to assign alphabets to the recovery, modes. It's always a K or a U or a V or an L-shaped recovery. Suffice to say, with all that you just talked about, that there is a possibility of a V-shaped recovery now that the second wave of COVID is beginning to settle down.
It is too early to comment on the kind of shape it is going to take. I do not belong to the stock exchange and the realities market, but yes, at the same time, I know there are the expectations by the investors to know from the OEMs. As I said in the beginning, it is not an apple-to-apple comparison with the wave one that we have started opening up now, and we will see a V-shaped kind of recovery. We need to watch a little more. The network has started opening up. We are seeing the retail momentum. However, moving forward in this time, since more powers have been given to the local administration to go for announcement of lockdowns and the various curbs on the economic activities, only I would say that another 1 or 2 months will really start giving us some shape and some trend which may start taking a shape. So may not be a V-shaped recovery for sure. That is happening, and we are seeing that.
Okay. Mr. Guleria, like you said, it's not an apple-to-apple comparison. The first wave of the pandemic, same time last year, was drastically different than what we've seen in the second wave. And unfortunate as it may be, much unlike the first wave when the virus struck India, this time around, you've got the rural and the hinterland as well get impacted with the virus. And, the numbers are still trickling in as to how badly impacted tier 3 and 4 cities have been. Perhaps you would be best positioned to answer this. Help us understand, are you seeing pain in the rural belt of the market, which actually aided the recovery same time last year?
As you rightly mentioned, this time we are seeing more spread and penetration of the impact of virus and the pandemic in the up to the hinterlands. And at the same time, there are some strong attributes and fundamentals of the rural economy in terms of the agriculture produce. And now recently, the big announcement on the MSP for all mandated kharif crop by the central government. It is on the higher side, and in some crops, it is much, much higher. And so that on one side is a positive aspect, but at the same time, rural this time has been caught unaware in terms of preparedness of the impact of the pandemic. Unfortunately, we have a limited resource of medical facilities and infrastructure in the rural area, and also the fact that they have not faced the wave one. They were not prepared to the extent the urban and semi-urban had been having gone through the wave one impact last year. So rural is definitely impacted, and we saw the numbers of even the tractor industry last month. It slowed down a bit because last 2 years tractors have been doing extremely well in the rural. So these are certain things. So there are plus, there are minus. So which is going to be on the heavier. We need to, once we move forward, we need to see that closely and watch closely. But for sure, rural has been impacted, and the recovery which rural has shown or supported the industry in last year during the wave one of the pandemic, it may not be having that similar kind of support to the industry. As far as Honda is concerned, since we have only up close to 25% of a business coming from the rural, the impact will be lower. Last year, since urban was impacted more, we had more impact as a brand. And this year, if rural gets impacted more, it will have a lower impact on us because our dependency on rural in our total business is comparatively lower.
Sure, I get your point. So, if you could talk a little bit about what could actually snap us out of this, slump that one is seeing. Of course, it's going to be, cross-country vaccination, as well as hopefully not a re-emergence of any other wave of the virus. But would you say that maybe it's going to be the festive season later this year that's going to finally prop up sales and perhaps get them back to pre-COVID levels?
A couple of factors we need to watch closely. One, since this time the wave came during the marriage season, especially in the cow belt area, or we call the northern and central belt of India, where there is an increased sale of two-wheelers, especially during the marriage season. And this time, because the lockdowns have been very severe and for an extended period of time, we did not see much celebrations in the rural in terms of the marriage. So they are already been postponed to the next season around the festival when the marriages will happen. And if we do not have the next wave coming in, it is expected we may see some pent-up demand of this marriage season being postponed to the next marriage season, which will be around the festival during winters for 2021. So that is one positive aspect we are looking forward to as an industry insider. Second is the sentiments which have started building around with the momentum of the vaccination drive, and especially now the center is going to drive this vaccination arrangements across the country. So there are positive sentiments. More and more people have started coming in and going ahead for the vaccination. Earlier, there have been a lot of anxiety around whether to go or not to go. But this time, we are seeing that more people have started coming forward for getting the vaccination. So we hope, and the monsoons this time again, for consecutive third year, going to be, on normal monsoon, which IMD has already shared the forecast. So Kharif crop, MSP on the higher side, good monsoons expected this year. Some pent-up demand may be visible down the line. So these are the aspects which we need to closely watch. At the same time, there are some headwinds like the retail finance still has not contributed to the industry the way it was expected. In fact, it has gone down by almost 10% in terms of contribution to the industry, from 43-44% to 39-40% only, the two-wheelers which are being sold on retail finance. So we expect more support from the retail finance company and the banks who are into retail financing of the two-wheeler industry, which may also add some momentum to the two-wheeler industry in next few months to come.
That's what's happening on the demand side. But I want to understand that for you at Honda, given that, the second wave had, there was no universal or countrywide lockdown. Things were very different in each and every state with their own, rules with regards to curbs and curfews and limitations which were put in place. How many of your dealerships are open, if you could give me a broad regional breakup? And, region-wise, if you could give me a sense of how the sales are happening and how far they are currently from the pre-COVID levels.
Since this time, the lockdown is not a national lockdown. So from planning and strategy point of view, it was much more challenging, not only for Honda, I would say for all the OEMs, because supply chains were also impacted. Sometimes your vendors or suppliers in a particular state, and they have to supply in a factory which happens to be another state. But since the factory activities have been allowed to carry on by following the respective COVID protocols, as directed by the local administration. So we were able to somehow manage the supply chains. And in terms of the lockdowns, that also moved differently and behaved differently. Initially we saw much more spike in the western region, as we all know, starting from the Nagpur region of Maharashtra, which was closed down almost of 2.5 months, and then coming to Mumbai belt area, and then started to spread into the southern region, and then lately to the east. In the month of May, more of south and east region of the country was open for the economic activities, where dealers are open in those areas, and we were seeing the retail sales momentum. Moving into the later half of May, the spread has been more towards the southern region and going down in the western region and central and northern part of the country. So we saw more lockdowns being announced in the southern region, and in fact extended. Today, if we take the status of on the in the first week of June, we have almost 8 states which are under lockdown, and the maximum states from are from the southern region. 3 states like Karnataka, Kerala, as well as Tamil Nadu are still under lockdown, and hardly any economic activity, especially related to two-wheeler business or auto business, is allowed. And in the eastern region, bigger state is Odisha, which is again under lockdown, and 3 northeast states like Tripura, Mizoram, and Arunachal Pradesh are still under lockdown. So this time the dynamics have changed. Earlier, south and east were driving the retail sales momentum for the industry. And I would say now in the month of June, it is the western region and central part of the country which is driving the business rather than south and east. So dynamics are changing on weekly basis. So that remains a challenge for all the marketeers to closely watch and change their moves, on week to week basis. Even from production point, the bigger challenge is, you may agree that the models which we sell in the country are the demand is not homogeneous. Once some of the models do very good in the eastern part of the country, they are not the same models or the colors which are popular in the southern part of the country or the central north part of the country. So you have to change this mix at a very quick pace. Your production and backend and supply chain needs to be readjusted accordingly to cater to such change in dynamics of market demand. So that remains a challenge, and we are in close liaison with our production teams and a purchase team to do our best to meet such challenges of the change in shifts and demands in the market across the country.
Just want to get a little bit into nitty-gritties as well, Mr. Guleria. When it comes to the premium bike segment, your rival, like an Eicher Motors, in the above 350cc segment, says that they still have a pending order book. What's the demand scenario for you in terms of, if you could just get a sense, a broad sense at that, in terms of the waiting time period? What's your take on the premiumization trend, which one can see in India? And in light of that, what kind of launches do you have planned, and what's the strategy really for the premium segment going forward?
First of all, I would not say rivals. I would say we are all, part of this big market and doing our best to increase the segment size and volume. And there is enough potential for everyone to survive and expand their business. And that is why Honda made the entry last year into the mid-size displacement of engine in terms of motorcycle. We made the entry last year as an exclusive premium business. So we announced that we will be selling and servicing our customers of the premium bike through our exclusive network. And for that, we also announced a totally different organization within HMSI. So it's a dedicated organization and whose focus and dedication is only towards the premium bike business in the country. So after the launch of Highness in last year, October 2020, we in a stepwise manner started expanding the portfolio also within the mid-size motorcycle segment in the engine displacement of 350cc and above. We launched in February the CB350 RS also and expanded our product range. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, our new network, which is under construction in terms of development of infrastructure, no construction activities were allowed. So it has been delayed a little bit in terms of the exclusive service and sales network, which is coming up in various parts of the country. Today, we have a limited network. It would have been much better if there had been no pandemic. However, on the product development side, all the plans are on track, and we do see that premium bike is one business which have a lower impact of all such things which are happening in the market in terms of the pressure of economic pressure and change of environment, because most of the buyers in terms of the profiling are the one who are going ahead with the purchase to realize their own passion and dreams in terms of recreation. Most of them are using the vehicle, their two-wheeler on the weekends. Obviously, they have some commuting also done on these two-wheelers, but more is the culture and lifestyle over the weekends with their friends and all, and which for the time being, because of the COVID restrictions, was on hold. But moving forward, this has a bigger potential to increase in terms of expansion of the market, and we will continue to expand our product portfolio, increase our network reach in more and more towns, so that our products and services are available to the customer closer to their place of living. So that's the way we see this market in terms of premium bike business expansion.
Sure. Mr. Guleria, the world now seems to be shifting to the EV model. What are your plans at Honda when it comes to EV? Because as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you've not explored it in India yet.
Yeah, EV, there has been a lot of noise around EV, and as far as EVs are concerned, Honda has those models in the global market and even in the Asian market. But yes, you are right. We have not freezed any plan for what kind of model we need to launch in the country. So far, there is no plan in the near future. In terms of study of the market, yes, there have been extensive studies which have been done, and we know what are the challenges in terms of the charging infrastructure, in terms of expectation of the customers, in terms of the price positioning as of now. So all those things we continue to study, which is part of our overall sales and marketing activity, and even the development side is keeping a close watch on it. But as of now, we have not announced any plan, and in near future, we do not have any EV to be introduced in the country.
Okay. The other thing that I wanted to understand was, how is it that you at Honda are coping up with the inflation in commodity prices? Because while many companies and many peers of yours have chosen to pass it on to consumers, at some point in time, it's going to have an impact on the volumes as well, or then margins take a hit. Either, the case may be. How is it that you've tried to tackle this menace, and do you see commodity prices peaking out anytime soon?
With respect to commodity prices, yeah, they have been very, very volatile in last couple of months, and all the OEMs have been trying their level best to keep the prices under control, because the expectations of the customers and the load on the customer is already high on account of shift of the industry from the BS4 to the BS6 norms, the new government regulation and compliance in terms of the environment regulation. So that impact was already there on the customers. However, beyond a point, it's very difficult for any company to absorb those increase in the commodity prices, because you know very well that the major part of any two-wheeler in terms of the total cost of production of a product is majorly coming from the raw material in the range of 60% to 70% of the total cost of the product itself, the end product. So that's why in last few months you have seen that the prices have been passed on to the consumer in the market. We are closely watching. We have also done it in the past, like other makers in the industry. And if the way it is going, some of the, in the recent past, some of the commodity prices are under control, but there is no significant drop which is visible. But yes, it is under control. Even rhodium for off late is under control. It comes under precious metal. However, overall pressure still remains on the OEM, and beyond a point, it is we believe that beyond a point, it will be difficult for any makers to absorb it further, and ultimately it will be passed on to the market.
Right. Mr. Guleria, I have to ask you about the feasibility of ethanol as an alternate fuel, because as per the mandate of the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, this is going to be implemented in about a year's time.
Yeah, as far as ethanol is concerned, the industry body, Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturer, is in active discussion and collaboration with the government on how to have, how to roll out the introduction of ethanol as an alternate fuel in the market. So the detailed planning and notification is still yet to come. And we are watching closely on the further announcement, and accordingly preparations will be done based on the new guideline timelines which are announced by the government for introduction of the same.
Is it going to be a tough task given what you just highlighted for the electric model and the lack of infrastructure thereof right now in the country?
What I understand, there are some commitments or assurances which has been given to Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturer in terms of the availability across different cities and different fuel pumps in the country. So once we move forward based on availability, we'll come to know. So that's why I said today it is difficult to comment because we do not have the timelines and details of the notification which is yet to come out. And then after studying the details only, we can comment further. SAM is already in touch with the government on sharing the voice of the industry to them and the concerns to have a proper implementation and successful implementation of this step and direction from the government side.
Mr. Guleria, such a pleasure having you on the show today and highlight how Honda is rebooting their strategy and helping India reboot. Great speaking with you.
Thank you, Ayesha. Thank you.
Thank you. Stock markets is a numbers game, and it sometimes does come across as one-dimensional. But what people don't see is that these numbers, when strung together, tell a story. There's no really black or white. It very much seems to be a work in progress of triumphs and mistakes, greed and fear. And I bring you that story behind the numbers in action.
Curating a business conversation means knowing how to engage business leaders, entrepreneurs, and decision makers by taking time to understand what makes them tick. I give you exclusive access to their unrivaled intelligence.
Catch me, Abha Bakaya, as I bring you market-moving insight, expert perspective, and success mantras. Only on ET Now.
All leaders in individual sectors.
What's the sense that you're getting on volume growth?
Just clarify this entire case.
What is it going to mean for the business?
What else are you looking at?
This is clearly one of the biggest deals.
Here at ET Now, I've been getting you bit by bit.
The problem on coming on your channel is that you already know everything. I just heard your introduction And what can anybody add to that?
I think the nation watches you every day, many hours during the day.
So Nikunj, that's why I love to interview with ET now and all of you, because you somehow seem to know the language that we speak.
I should watch ET more often. You guys have changed the whole world.
This is a very insightful question that you're asking, Nikunj, and almost seems like you were listening in on the deliberation the committee was doing.